It should be live now.
Wow, well, thank you so much, Nicole, for getting us live.
No worries.
I need to work on my tech issues.
Hopefully this works. This is not the way that we're supposed to do it. So, but we're going to make it work because that's what this time is all about.
Yeah, everything is kind of up in the air right now, right? Mm-hmm. And it's really loud here. There's someone with a leaf blower outside too. I'm having so much. But I was hoping we could start with a short little centering, and then we could hear from you about your amazing work.
That sounds great.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So check the posture and get centered. If you want, you could close the eyes or leave them open. Take a few breaths. And see if you could feel the spine lengthening on the inhale and the body grounding as you exhale. And then if it's comfortable, you can spend a moment observing the breath, letting it move however it wants, accepting whatever feelings come. Noticing what's happening emotionally with you, what thoughts are in the mind. Again, accepting whatever comes. And then taking a breath, and slowly opening the eyes. So can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. Can you hear me okay?
Okay. You're quiet. I'm not sure if that's my machine.
I'll try to speak up.
Okay, that helped. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for helping with the tech and going live for me. So I'm just really grateful for your time because I know you're really busy. I feel like you've really stepped up at a time when there's such a huge need, and you're acting so fast and doing such incredible stuff. I wonder if you could just kind of tell people just first a little about yourself. I mean, I don't know what you want to share, just like a short intro. I'm sure you're tired of telling that story about Yoga Journal, but...
Sure. So hi, everybody. My name is Nicole Cardoza. If we haven't met, I've been working in yoga and wellness for the past 5 or 6 years now. I run a nonprofit called Yoga Foster, which brings yoga and mindfulness to schools. And recently I started Reclamation Ventures, which is a fund that is investing in increasing equity and representation in the wellness industry, which is a little bit about, that's really what we'll be focusing our conversation on today. I had the controversy with Yoga Journal, so a lot of people know me as that girl on the magazine. But what's exciting about that is that was really the impetus to start Reclamation Ventures and start offering support for people that are most marginalized in this work. And it's been an honor to be able to be in that work over the past few months, and especially now when we are seeing the impact of coronavirus on our community. So thank you. Thank you for having me and for holding this space.
Yeah, of course. It's amazing that you made time. Like I said, you like, to me, what you did was so fast. Like you were able to really get something together so quickly. And is that something you've been working on already, or is it just because of the grant process you had in place that you were able to shift it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so right now, Reclamation Ventures is offering relief grants. We are offering the ability to cover 1 month of lost revenue for marginalized business owners and instructors in the wellness community. We were able to do that pretty quickly because, yes, we are already doing grants. We have been offering grants and have a grant opportunity out right now for people building businesses in the industry, and planned on releasing 2 more of those this year. But when we saw what was happening, we realized, our work should shift to fortifying the people already in this work not just necessarily bringing more people into this work, because that's what this state calls for. This is a really terrifying time of year, and we're going to be in this for a little bit. So yeah, that was part of the speed, was that we're already doing grants. We already have grant reviewers. We already had partners pledged to support, and so we just shifted it to this.
So I have a tech question. Right now, it seems like my screen's showing up for everyone all the time as big.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we could shift that so they can see you somehow.
Oh, that's because, I know why that's because I'm the one talking on the screen, because I'm looking at my screen. So yeah. I think I can make myself...
We're all seeing your screen.
Right. Well, it was switching on yours, but you are not screen sharing. So since I am your guest, I have to be smaller. I made myself slightly bigger on my end. So for all the people that are watching...
I'm going to make you co-host.
Maybe that would help. So we'll work on it. But as long as you can hear the words, that doesn't matter. I don't look that cute right now anyway, so...
I know, but I think it'd be better if they see you. So I made you co-host. So you could also highlight your video, possibly. Okay. I don't know. It depends.
I'll tool around as you ask me questions. Thank you.
There's the little 3 dots on the right-hand corner in Zoom,
yep.
which is also helpful for people to know who are using Zoom right now, because that's something we're all learning to do, is that if you scroll onto the image, onto your image, if you're the host, and you have 3 little dots in the upper right-hand corner, there's a lot of controls there on Zoom, so you can spotlight your video. Yeah, is that what you did?
Well, now you're gone, and I'm just small, so.
Okay, I hear that's better. Emma's telling me that's better, Melanie.
Oh, it's better to get rid of your face entirely? Oh, I don't want that. But if that's what you're asking
I'm still there. I think I'm still there. It's okay. Yeah, it's fine. You're the one you're interviewing here, so I think it's better if you could be on screen.
Okay.
So let's go back to the talk. So you were basically already offering grants, and you just switched it to this emergency funding.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
And do you feel like the reaction has been huge? I mean, I've seen, was it over 250 applications already for emergency funding? Is that true?
That's the latest. That was as of yesterday. I haven't checked today. But yes, and I mean, it makes sense. There's so many people that have been incredibly impacted and will continue to be impacted. So we're excited for what we can do to start, and we're also raising as much funds as possible to help as many people as possible. So that's where we are. We're our first, we want to start deploying funds next Friday, which is really exciting, and hopefully continue to offer funds every Friday moving forward.
And I mean, it seems like that's a huge amount of admin. Like, do you have staff support for that? I mean, I can't imagine even paying money out, like how much time that would take.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you send electronic transfers or something, I mean, that must be a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, we are, there's no staff at Reclamation Ventures. This is all volunteer based, and so that definitely needs to change. We need more hands-on support. I mean, just my accountant and I have been going back and forth so much. There's so much legally and logistically of sending funds to people in the U.S. So, yeah, it's definitely an all hands on deck kind of moment right now. But I think that's what this time is calling for.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm curious about that, about whether you could scale up somehow to address the need, because I think a lot of people don't know what you're doing yet, and it feels like, I mean, it's amazing that you can do anything, but it also feels like alone you shouldn't have to address this huge need. Like we're talking about thousands of yoga teachers are out of work just in the US alone, and then if you look around the world, I mean, hundreds of thousands probably. And you mentioned 250 people requesting funds, and you give grants. Does everyone get? Well, we don't know yet, I guess, if everyone will get the money, right? But even if they were going to get it, that would be like over $600,000. I mean, these are big amounts of money, and like I don't know. So, what do you think? Could this be scaled up, or?
It's a good
What do you
question.
think about them?
Yeah, our goal is to raise $100,000 by the end of this month. So that wouldn't solve for everybody that's on that list. I think that if you think about bailing out the entire yoga industry, that's something that needs to be handled more on a political level than I think a personal philanthropic initiative. But with that being said, yes, like the way that we scale up is the same way that it started, and it's just individuals raising their hands, offering to do volunteer support, sharing the grant. If there's people that are listening or people that you know that have the capacity to give, asking them to give, we have a GoFundMe up. We're hosting conversations with larger wellness brands and institutions for them to be able to give. So yes, in one hand, it is it's really hard to think that we could make that big of an impact, but we got here because of the support of the community. You know what I mean? I'm not a
Yeah.
billionaire. I'm not like sitting, this isn't coming from my paycheck. I lost most of my revenue this year too. So it's not like this is coming out of my pocket, right? This is everybody coming together and helping with whatever they've got. And that's what we need right now.
Yeah, but it's kind of amazing that you've been able to do it and that you've been so effective so quickly. And I guess part of it is that being smaller, it's easier to move fast. And I feel like, in a way, accessible yoga is in a similar place regarding like these calls that we're hosting, the guide that we put together, the blog where we have tons of information for yoga teachers. I feel like, I understand larger organizations move slower because there's more people involved in making decisions and everything. But I feel like there's also there's a separation between larger organizations and the reality of what people are experiencing. And I think that's part of why there isn't quick movement on their parts, because I think they're divorced from the reality of what it's like in the world to be a yoga teacher who potentially has no income and a family to support. And I think if larger organizations got that, I think there would be a change, a quicker change than we will see. We may see a change, but it will be slow coming, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And also because, a lot of these businesses don't have equitability, like have equity or have accessibility or have employment equity built into their purpose, right? RV is a small, young organization, so that makes us nimble by nature, but that's our focus. So we don't really have a choice to respond in any other way, right? Because that's what we've committed to doing. And we committed to doing it before coronavirus. It's just now our response is shifting because of the circumstances. So I think that's something to keep in mind too. Is as we think about long term preventing this to happen, how do we also encourage larger institutions to have these kinds of initiatives, accessibility and equity, first and foremost as part of their business models? Because then it wouldn't take as long for them to respond. Because a lot of the response time for larger businesses is trying to work around the policies and the systems that they've created to achieve a different goal.
Which is often profit and not service.
Yeah, or user growth, right? So student-oriented stuff, like how do I get more people in the room, which of course is related to profit, and maybe not necessarily how do I support the staff that's meeting and greeting them and offering the services. So
yeah, I mean, that's why this moment feels kind of, I don't want to say positive or anything. I mean, because this is horrific what's happening to people, but I feel like there is a potential positive shift in the way that at least the yoga world functions financially. I think that we're seeing more clearly that yoga teachers who are actually offering the content, they're actually out there doing the work, they're not being supported financially. Like they're already just living paycheck to paycheck. And yet there are a lot of other larger companies making a lot of money off of yoga, and even off those teachers, you know what I mean? Whether it's large studio chains or clothing companies or whatever. And we've heard that before, and it's nothing new, but I feel like it's being exposed maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that this is this virus, people keep talking about being exposed to the virus, but the virus is really exposing all of the systemic inequities. The virus isn't the problem. It's the system that wasn't designed to support it, right? And you could say that for anything right now, from healthcare to income inequality to, or lack of healthcare and lack of access to healthcare, to income inequality to mobility in different cities. Yeah, like this virus is really showing up and showing all of our ugly sides, and we have a lot of that in wellness too.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
I love the article you wrote, and you wrote about that early on. Like that was
yeah,
like what, 2 weeks ago, maybe,
yeah.
in Medium, right?
Yeah, we did a report on just kind of what we thought, like the coronavirus, what would happen to the wellness industry and how it would be impacted. And unfortunately, in such a short time, a lot of that stuff is coming true. I mean, some of it had already started to happen. We started to see the early signs. But what I'm really hoping that comes out of this is that we all decide how we want this industry to work moving forward, and that we start advocating for our needs as instructors in particular, and also as small business owners. Like, how can we start creating systems within our own work that can help inform the rest of the space?
So how can we do that? I mean, other than creating something like you.
I don't know. There's to take it, not to take it in too much of a philosophical conversation, but capitalism thrives off of inequity, and so if we want to talk about like how to create new businesses in capitalism, we're still going to be coming into a space where it is inherently inequitable, right? Like, there's going to be people that don't have paid sick leave, and there's going to be financial inaccessibility, for example. We can do a lot to shift that, right? We can look at increasing our cash reserves. We can look at having less teachers at a studio that maybe get paid a bit more so that they can put money away. We can look at unionizing instructors if that feels right, to have salary and benefits and more job security. Like, there's a lot that we can do within the constructs of capitalism. And I'm happy to talk about that more, but I think it's important to name that capitalism is a big part of the problem, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's really the question right now, is do we try to fix this system, or do we try to reimagine a new system? Is there a potential here to really create something very different within yoga, or is that not possible? Do we just need to work on what we have?
It's definitely, if there was a time to change systems and to reimagine industries, now's the time, because I don't think we've had anything. When things become vulnerable and fragile, they also become very malleable. So this is the time to be doing that. There's also, and I hate to be talking about this virus in a capitalistic point of view, because I know how devastating it is for so many people. And there's also a lot of opportunity in changing things when we talk about this work. And one thing that's happened in particular is that it gives a lot of voices that have been systemically not listened to or seen a lot more relative power right now. Because I think it's been easy for people to turn away from ideas like paid sick leave, and turn away from these ideas that everybody deserves health care and universal basic income, and all of these ideas that, when we were watching the debates a couple weeks ago, were seen as like radical, right, and almost nonsensical, and now are, the way out, it seems, for the United States at least. That these are things that people are talking about implementing and passing in Congress right now. So this is the time, right? And people that have been systemically disadvantaged from an economic perspective, and yoga instructors are definitely one of this. Like, this is the time to be changing everything and advocating for needs. Because this is the worst case example that everybody thought would never happen.
Yeah, I know. I never imagined this happening. Although even after living through the AIDS crisis, I never really thought it would happen like this. But I appreciate what you said. I think there is this amazing opening right now, and we're seeing it in the U.S. government. Like you said, the changes that are happening so fast. I mean, I think we need to really recognize the disability community and disability activists who have been asking for most of those things for years and decades, and universal health care and flexible work hours and paid time off. And these are now everyone's gotten them in a few days. We're getting a lot of that right away. It's just amazing.
Right. And increasingly what we're seeing too, which is important when we think about power and voice, is that this is happening to people across the socioeconomic statuses as well. I think people are feeling it first and foremost that are wage workers that are already economically disadvantaged. But it mean like that is really where like the bulk of the workforce is in America, and certainly it's going to start. You're going to start going to feel the repercussions of this going up. And when you see more people feel directly threatened by this at all different socioeconomic levels, is when you can actually start having radical change, because there's people with all types of power coming into the conversation.
Right, and that's what's happened. Mm-hmm. And I guess what I'm concerned that that can change back quickly. Like I feel like, say, the main threat has passed, like in a few weeks or months. Like how quickly do we get back to semi-business as normal and like ignore the people that are actually been injured during this process, whether they're physically ill because of the virus or because they've just lost work, and potentially because not having any money, they are losing housing and can't afford food and other things. So I feel like it could have a devastating effect in the long run if there isn't major change that's sustained, mm-hmm. Especially within our community, like I said, because so many teachers don't have stable income, aren't employees, don't have, you know what I mean, just are totally independent. Mm-hmm. I don't know. So I guess I wonder what else we could do.
It's a good question, and we've seen that a lot too in other recessions and depressions and other times of like, instability economically. Historically, things go back to normal, and then they tend to swing into like this, like there's a lot of credit available in the world, and you can become very materialistic, and we start having like these kind of roaring 20s parties, and we kind of like go and forget our problems and drown our problems and drink them away if we don't continue to organize and we don't continue to rally and we allow this stuff to go back to normal. And part of that has to come with, part of that is because of and comes from scarcity in the way, like, after being out of work for 3 months, I can totally understand if it's hard to, then go back to your studio and try to rally for them to pay salary and benefits, for example. But this is also the time to try, and it's also the time to organize and have a really clear path forward right now.
Yeah. So what do you imagine for Reclamation Ventures? I mean, what can you, is this, like, are you going to try and scale? I mean, it sounds like it,
Yeah. So,
what are you thinking?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we created our like 2020 vision plan back in December, and coronavirus was not on it. So there's a lot of that questioning right now between myself and our board and our funders of like what else we will do this year after the relief funds. Those aren't going away. That's something we want to sustain as long as we need to. So that, I read something today that they think the virus will peak in New York City in 45 days. So we could be talking that's a long time, right? It's a long time to be giving away funds. So that's one thing that we're trying to figure out is what else can we do and how long can we sustain the relief funding? The second thing we know, again, being committed to increasing equity and representation right now is about fortifying it. So what other like multi-year funding investments can we do into businesses that need to be supported? Is there any kind of education that we could be offering? We have this whole education platform that we're rolling out for entrepreneurs in April that is maybe not as relevant or as needed as it is as the relief fund right now, but could be something that could be helpful as people get back on their feet. And we're still listening. For our plans this year, we're doing a ton more reporting. We just launched our State of the Yoga Instructor Survey, which went out with Set2 in partnership with Set2 to have a good sense of what the yoga instructor landscape looks like. We started planning for this months ago and obviously launched it at a very urgent time. So if you are a yoga instructor and you're listening to this and you haven't taken that survey, please do. I think the biggest barrier overall for organizations like ours to increase equity is the fact that there's not data out there in terms of how equitable the landscape is. So a big part of our work this year is really trying to ground down into what the landscape looks like From a non-biased perspective, we're not asking for this information because we're trying to sell $128 yoga pants. We're asking for this information because we want to make sure everyone's voices are heard. And we'll be coming out with a lot more of that kind of reporting and data collection this year. So that's a very long-winded answer to say that, like, we do know some things that we're doing, but we're still listening because this is a time, like, if we can be hyper responsive, that's where we want to be.
And I just want to clarify that the emergency funding that you offer is just in the U.S., but the survey is international. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. So we, there's a lot of a lot of rules around giving away money to people for free, and one of those for us is we can only grant to U.S.-based organizations and individuals as of now. But if people that are asking, like, start something in your country, start something in your town, start something in the U.S. There is no shortage of need. And there's no shortage of money. It's just about a matter of finding it. So start.
So can I ask you about that though, Nicole? Because I asked you this once before. Because I've known you for a while. Like, we keep running into each other in random cities. When, like, in the past, when we used to travel and work, both of us, we would, like, always end up in the same place. And you were, like, nice enough to come and visit my trainings and talk about your work. And I was always so happy to have you. But I think it was in Atlanta. I asked you a question, and I don't feel like you really answered because I think you're very modest. But I don't know, like, if most people could do what you did and, like, react the way you had and, like, think of creating a fund like that. Like, I just thought there was something about you or your background or your training that your education, I don't know, or work experience that kind of gave you the skills to do that. And it seems very specialized to me, and I don't know what that is.
Yeah. That's a good question. And, I could do more resources. I could put more resources out there and what I've learned along the way. I've really learned, like, in it. I went to business school, but they never talked about, like, entrepreneurship or fundraising or anything like that. But I went to undergrad business school. I don't have an MBA or anything. But I started a nonprofit 5 years ago, and what the nonprofit does and what we've been based on is, like, how do we work with the wellness community to redistribute assets to communities that need it most? And at Yoga Foster, we work in lower income public schools, so that's our market. So I've learned how to put together pitch decks, and I've learned how to identify, okay, what foundations are out there that might want to support big causes, and what brands are out there that have money that they're willing to give, and who are the right people. And then making that ask. And a lot of it's, like, going through LinkedIn and finding people. A lot of it's having the courage to send an email again and again until you get a no. But, over the past few years, I've grown a bunch of privilege to be able to do this work more effectively. And that's why I'm really committed to continuing to do this work here. But I do think that there is, especially in these times, it's really interesting. A lot of people become very scared around money, understandably, but it also means a lot of times they're scared to ask. So if you're curious or interested about starting something right now or about fundraising right now, now's the time to try. And if you are interested in learning on how to do effective fundraising and how to identify donors, how to cultivate leads, how to analyze whether or not your work might be relevant to different foundations in your area, reach out. I'm not an expert by any means. There are people that have gone to school for this and do this for a living and have been doing this for a lot longer than me. But I'm doing the best that I can. And I think that's all we can ask for, right? From ourselves and from each other, is just for us to do the best that we can. So.
Yeah, and it's amazing what you've done, like, in a short time. And I mean, going back to your story a little bit, just I'm always amazed by the way that you turned around the situation with Yoga Journal. And was that the point where you made a decision to do this, or were you already thinking on something like that? Like, was it?
Yeah, no, so, I've been doing Yoga Foster for years now. And, we've raised a few mil to be able to, like, reallocate that back into schools. But it's hard as a person of color, as a woman of color, as a Black woman. Like, it's hard to be in these spaces, right? Because there are so many expectations about who deserves to have access to capital. And I think that's something we all know, and that's a big reason why I started RV. And I had wanted to start it for a while. I was helping a philanthropist set up her funds, and I was like, I'm going to learn what I can from helping her do this work and put it into my own life. So then when Yoga Journal happened, it was just such a beautiful example, a beautiful, ugly, terrible, but like so perfectly flawed example of like why people feel like they don't deserve to be in this space, right? Like what more public, blatant, disrespectful example can you have than that? And so that was just kind of like the final push to say like this needs to happen now. And it actually got me over my fears of being like, well, I'm not good enough and I'm not smart enough and I can't raise the kind of money that I want to, even though I've done stuff in the past. I'm like, sure, I don't think that I'm good enough, but harm is happening every day, right? And now in the world that we're in right now, like there's people that can't afford to pay their bills right now because of this pandemic. You know what I mean? There is no time to wait. There is no time to like get better. And like, what do I think I'm going to do? Like sit around and read books and I'm going to finally feel confident enough? Like we get the most information we can from doing. And you know, if you raise $10, that's $10 that supports somebody.
Yeah, and it does seem like this is a moment that yoga businesses will want to support teachers. So I feel like you, like I said, you were just so fast to respond to the need, and I do hope that. I mean, I'm going to help you actually with fundraising, and that's one of my plans.
Yeah.
I have lots of plans going in my head, but that's one of them is to support your work and see if Accessible Yoga can kind of speak to large organizations who have money and recommend they give money to you, because I feel like you have a system in place. I hope you can handle it all, like the money that I think is going to come to you. Honestly, I think you're going to get a lot of money.
Yeah. We will.
So I think not because of me, but just because of the world right now. And I feel like everyone's looking for someone who's doing what you're doing, at least in yoga. Mm-hmm. Everyone I've talked to is looking for like a place to go to help teachers, people with funds and resources. And so you have that. So like, seriously, I feel like, I hope you're ready for like lots of money coming.
We're ready. We are ready. We have a great volunteer staff. We have, obviously there's a lot of people that are looking for work. We have people that were willing not just to fund the work itself, like doing direct granting, but also to help fund the capacity that we would need to streamline this more effectively. So we're ready. We're really prepared for this, and we'll take all of the support that we can. So thank you.
And also our community is amazing. Like I just have to say that, we've been trying to do these talks on this community page, and, the response has been amazing. The mutual support happening in this group is incredible. And, this is a community that's very tight knit and supportive of each other and has a lot of experience, I think, with issues like this. It's a very diverse community. Mm-hmm. But like when Amber asked for support with putting together this resource guide, it was incredible, the expertise that came forward, and they actually did it. Yeah. They actually created this whole incredible resource guide that we now have on our, at the top of the page here, actually, of the Accessible Yoga community. If people are looking for it, there's a really great guide that includes things like, taking your classes online, best practices for that, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm just offering the support of this community on their behalf. I don't hope they all agree with me, but if there's anything we can do.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, take the survey. I'll post it if that's okay. If you haven't already in this group, because I can't see anything because I'm stuck on this page. But I'll post that. Please take that survey and share it with other yoga instructors you know. It's about 10 to 15 minutes. It's completely anonymous. That's the first step. And then apply for the grant and share it with somebody that you think might be relevant for it too. If you know funders, we have a GoFundMe. You can put them in touch with me directly. We have a whole action kit that I'll also share, and it's got a whole bunch of FAQs and resources and assets that you can share. So yes, thank you. And I think that's the thing that people forget is like that this community of people working in wellness are some of the most powerful people on this planet. And so let's not forget that, let's organize, let's figure out what we need to do. Let's offer some like short-term relief, but let's also rally for the world that we want to be practicing in,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I totally agree. I think this is work that in a way we've been doing in small ways all along. To me, this speaks to service and community building, which is something that many of us have been working on for a long time. Yep. And now it's like, now is the time to really to show what we've learned and what we've been practicing. It's to me, it's a yoga practice. So I do think that I think we can figure out ways to support ourselves. And that's why, again, I'm just so grateful to you and what you're doing, and that you showed me how quickly and how efficiently it can be done. And it's just incredible. So thank you. Thank you on behalf of all of us, that are being supported by you. I mean, I haven't gotten a grant personally, but I know a lot of people will get a lot of money from you. So that's amazing. I mean, what's more effective than that than just giving people? It's just like so brilliant. So
yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably the most effective. For immediate change, it's really effective. For long-term change, it's organizing. So if we can do the short term to help people do the long term, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and for long term, I'm really thinking about that too. And I know we barely touched on it today, but it's just like I'm really interested in talking to people like you and anyone who's interested in ideas for that. Yeah. Around that, like what needs to change on a larger level and longer term. I think we need to, I don't know how to say it, but I think we need to begin imagining that and use our creativity and our creative spirit to conceive of a yoga culture that really is equitable and accessible. And unless we can perceive that or conceive of that ourselves, then it can't happen. So in a way, this is a time for like drastic emergency action, but it's also a time for like serious inner reflection and creativity. And so I know that ability lies within these communities. Like I know we have that ability.
100%.
So I just am excited to see what people come up with.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe we should end there. I appreciate you helping with the tech today, especially.
We did our best. We made it happen, right? We made it work. It's not perfect.
Yeah, and I got to work it out.
There.
What?
It's not perfect, but it's here. And I think that's a good analogy for what we should be working towards right now.
Yeah, right now we just need to act.
Yeah.
And then maybe take a breath and also stop and think and reflect and really plan, start planning for the future. So anyway, thanks so much, Nicole. I really appreciate you talking to me.
Thank you. Can you see if there's any questions? Because I can't see that.
Let's see, maybe M can tell us.
If I do, you're going to get like this, swirl. I can also pull it up on my phone.
No, I'll look. Not really. I think we confused people.
Probably. I can see some. I think I see a lot of thank yous. Will this help support be available for teachers abroad and in other communities? I posted that at least our financial grants are not available outside of the United States. But we do have the survey that's there is global, and it's going to show a global response to, or at least it's going to show a global landscape of what yoga instructors are needing in every market. So please share it in your communities, because the report will be a lot stronger if it's got more information from people in your community. So cool.
And you'll post all of those links and all the resources, like a link to the survey and
and Mel posted in the thing as well. So it's that bit.ly link that says State of Yoga Survey.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, they already posted it. Yeah.
Yep, they got it.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you then.
Thank you so much.